lot of woods, a lot of large tracts of woods and forest in that area that would be very easy to hide a crime if someone chose to.
The woods of Trout Lake in western Chippewa County are a sportsman's paradise. And on November 11, 1966, a group of hunters were preparing for what they hoped would be another successful season when they made a grisly discovery.
Found human remains that had clearly been drugged and hidden underneath the tree. The troopers originally arrived on scene and found what they believed to be a white male that has deceased from a number of apparent gunshots. The remains were fairly decomposed.
Investigators would eventually determine the man was shot at least 5 times with a .22 caliber firearm.
An autopsy was conducted, and it was clear that multiple gunshots were the cause of death. They did dental work for the individual. Back in 1966, there was no DNA, so it's not like it is today. So their first attempts in any homicide case is to try to identify the victim.
But that is where detectives would get stuck.
Numerous attempts through years of work were unsuccessful and able to identify this John Doe victim of homicide. Eventually, the case went cold. A number of tips were called in and run down that did not reveal the identity of John Doe, and eventually the case went cold.
This is the sketch state police developed of the man, possibly in his mid-20s, who stood between 5'8" and 5'9" and had a medium build with brown hair with a slight reddish tint. Some items found at the scene did offer some clues about where this man may have been from.
In his pockets was a number of coins, both some American and some Canadian coins that were found upon his person. Also a set of keys with a leather keychain hasp were found in his pocket. His clothing led investigators to believe at the time that possibly he may have come from an area of farm country, kind of like a Western style of clothing that was found upon his person. There's information that back in those times there were kind of groups of individuals that worked for logging companies that would kind of travel around the Upper Peninsula. There were logging companies that were working in that area at that time that had workers from out of the area. So it was one of the working theories that it was an individual from a logging company that had passed through that area doing work that may have been killed and left behind.
The case would also suffer a major setback.
We were advised that the cemetery that he was buried in 1967, downstate, had a flood inside their records department and destroyed the section of records where his burial was recorded. So we have identified the cemetery that he's buried in downstate, but are unable to determine exactly which plot he's in to do an exhumation to then begin our DNA work.
Still, state police believe the case can be solved.
We do have dental records. We did do dental examinations and have those records. So if a person who's named to us has information from a dental office, we would be able to match up those dental records. There's hope. There's hope that some family member is going to be on NamUs's website or hear the story about this case and understand or realize that they had a missing uncle, they had a missing brother, they had a missing whoever that this person could possibly be.
If you have any information on who this John Doe is, contact Michigan State Police. For 9 and 10 News, I'm David Leiden.